the pills kept having these bad side effects, and I kept ending up in the hospital. So my primary Dr. Luton, my primary care doctor, told me, I don't want you taking no more pills from him.
Hey, hang on a second, guys. We're live.
Okay. Oh, cool. All right.
We're there. So. I think we're there.
Yep.
Hello? Yeah. All right, fine. I don't know where we at. Let's see what we test. We're at speaker box there. Well, hopefully, Zach, does Lisa say we're live? I can't tell on my phone. All I got is a black box. It says restream.
She's looking now. Just a second.
It's on there.
She says you're on.
Yeah,
she says you're on.
Oh, there we are. I see Tommy.
Yeah.
But that's okay. All right. Okay.
And Tommy, we can talk later, okay, bud?
Christian and Doug are all live.
All right, we're okay. Well, we'll explain later. How about that? We're going to start off with a breathing exercise, and I'm going to get back into, as I was praying and meditating earlier today, and so we'll just do that, and let's go ahead and put our hands on our heart if you're so inclined, and we're going to breathe through our nose twice and exhale, and we're going to go down that elevator. We're going to start at 10 and go down. So let's go. Inhale again, exhale, 10, inhale again, and exhale, 9. Inhale again, exhale, 8. Inhale again, exhale, 7. Inhale again, and exhale, 6. Inhale again, exhale, 5. Inhale again, exhale, 4. Inhale, inhale again, exhale, 3. Inhale again, exhale, 2. Inhale again, exhale, 1. We're going to go all the way to 0. Inhale again, exhale, 0. We're in that elevator and that door opens up. We step into a lighted area. Pleasant. The temperature's just right. We get on whatever transportation mechanism you want, and we move down through the lush area. Hear the brook that's splashing, carrying on. We go over the bridge. We feel the moisture. We move in past that bridge. We see the flowers. We smell the flowers. We see the trees. We go through the trees. And we move in an upward fashion to some giant gates. And there's two creatures on each side of that gate, and we're picking up speed as we go up this path, this roadway. And they're pleasantly pleased to see us. And I call them mercy and grace. And I give them a high five as I go through the gates. And in that area, it's in the presence of God. And my body is no longer body, but now it's starting to just become particles. And we breathe. And we relax. We don't know why we feel safe, but we're in a safe place. And now our particles move from particle to wave. And now we're everywhere. Soak up what you need. And while we're in this place, I had a picture come in my head today. At tonight, believe it or not, with all the problems we've had tonight, that it was like little needles of light was going to go out tonight. Somehow, some way, I don't know how, but little needles of light going out. Because some people can't stand a big beam, but they can take some needles of light to pierce their darkness, to alter them. And if you want more than one or two or three, just open up to those needles of light. Take as many as you want. Now, don't be careful. Don't overwhelm yourself. But allow that light piercing to take place. That healing, that peace, that hope. Yeah, I know you don't understand it. I don't understand it. We don't have to understand it. We just accept it. There's a lot of things we don't understand, and it still happens anyway. Do we have to understand everything? I used to think I did. So just let it in. Let it go to those specific areas of your life. We're in a place of non-time, so maybe some of it can go into your future. Prepare that it's to come. Take another deep breath. Receive that peace. And hopefully that was as good as for you as it was to me. And I apologize, we're late. We just all kinds of complications, but we're here. Looks like we're here. So it's going to be a good one. So I'm going to pass her over to our MC, and I assume that's you, Zach. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Well,
that's me.
I'll let you take it from here.
Okay, well, welcome everybody to Saturday Night Live. Like Doug said, we're late tonight because we've had some difficulties, but excuse me. But that's one thing that we do around here is we persevere. So we don't just talk about it; we do it. So we're glad you're here, and if you're watching this some other time, we're glad you're here. And leave us a comment or something. Let us know you stopped by. And without further ado, we're going to get on with it. So please welcome Kate. She's going to read the 12 steps for us.
Right. We admitted that we were powerless over our problems and that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 1. Sorry. Step 2. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3. We made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. Step 4. We made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5. We admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6. We were entirely ready to let God remove these defects of characters, or these defects of character. Sorry. Step 7. We humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. Step 8. We made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9. We made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10. We continued to take personal inventory of ourselves, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11. We sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. And step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
All right. Thank you, Kate. Appreciate that. And we're going to move on to the step tonight. And please welcome John. He's going to give the step for us tonight.
I'm sorry for the extra noise here, but I'm in Water Garden. My subject tonight is family influence. Scripture is Nehemiah 9:34-38. Our kings, leaders, priests, and ancestors did not obey your law or listen to the warnings in your commands and laws. Even while they had their own kingdom, they did not serve you, though you showered your goodness on them. You gave them a large, fertile land, but they refused to turn from their wickedness. So now today we are slaves in the land of plenty that you gave our ancestors for their enjoyment. We are slaves here in the good land. The lush produce of this land piles up in the hands of the kings whom you have set over us because of our sins. They have power over us and our livestock. We serve them at their pleasure, and we are in great misery. The people responded. In view of all this, we are making a solemn promise and putting it in writing on this sealed document are the names of our leaders and Levites and priests. Question 1 is, are there any people in your family of origin, my family of origin, whom I have blamed for my life situations resulting addictions? If so, who? My father, because he chose alcohol over dealing with life situations. What resentments do I carry toward them if I even if unrelated to my addiction, to addiction? He more or less shunned me and my memory, to my memory, didn't want anything to do with me. And what truly brought me into bondage of addiction and dependency? I wanted it my way. I didn't care who it hurt. That's all.
Okay, thank you, John. Appreciate that. And tonight I have the reflection, so we're going to move into that. And so this is step 4, and I always like to read the steps. So we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And so step 4, for me, when I first did the 12 steps, I always say that step 4 for me was pretty life-changing. I learned a big lesson. Step 4 took me almost 4 months to complete. I mean, it's not that the other steps were really fast for me, but step 4 taught me a lot of lessons. They say that the steps, you don't work the steps work you. And, when I first did step 4, it was all negative. My inventory was all negative. Excuse me. And so I always want to, when I talk about the step, I always want to remind folks that you got to put the positive in there too, because even though you may have been out there doing bad things, you're not all bad. You may believe that, but you're not all bad, and not everything you did was bad. And so your inventory needs to have the good things on there too. And that's healthy to do that. The question that I wanted to focus on tonight was, I think John covered the first 2, and so I was going to cover the last one anyway, so that works out. It says, what truly brought me into the bondage of addiction and dependency? What is my responsibility, my part in it? And, and this, what we're talking about is family, let's just say that first. I think John said it, but family influence. And so that means a lot of things for different people. I mean, maybe family influence for you was that, substance use was modeled. Maybe the people around you drank or used or whatever. And, that was modeled for me. I can't say that is why I did it. That isn't true for me. My father died when I was 8 years old. My biological father died when I was 8 years old, and my stepfather, he was an alcoholic. But I can't sit here today and say that I drank and used substances because my stepfather modeled that for me. Maybe you can, but I can't use that excuse. For me, it was a deterrent, not something that led me to it. And the reason being is because he was such a terrible individual. And the thing that did lead me though into those substances and stuff was because I wanted to escape. I wanted to escape the trauma in my life, the pain that I didn't know how to deal with. I didn't have the tools. I didn't have the people in my life to help me. And I wasn't ready. I wasn't able, for whatever reason, to allow God close to me to heal me from some of those traumatizing events in my life. And so, for me, I didn't want to feel. I wanted to numb out, and I wanted to escape, the things that hurt me. And so, substances were good for that. And it wasn't always substances. Sometimes it was anger, you know, sometimes it was, wrapping yourself up in drama or a certain type of lifestyle. Um, I spent some time running with some very violent people, and living that life. And whenever you're constantly having to uh, uh, protect yourself or watch yourself, um, you don't have a lot of time to sit and think about all the things that have happened to you. I mean, we use different things to escape. It doesn't always have to be substances. And uh, one thing I just want to mention, and then I'm going to turn it over to Doug, is um, in times past, I've talked a lot about, I used to be very angry at people in my life that I thought let me down. And I thought that they should have been able to give me something that they couldn't, And what I know today is that you can't give somebody something you don't have. And my attitude back then was, well, then they just should have got it. They should have done the work and they should have got it, right? And because I needed it. My attitude was, well, they should have done the work and they should have got it because I needed it. Damn it. That was my attitude. And the reality of it is that that isn't really reality. And we've all been through things. We've all had our own trauma, and we don't get to decide what is traumatic. Something that isn't trauma to me may be trauma to you, and vice versa. Or I may think that I know everything that you've been through in your life, or I may think that I know everything my family's been through in their life. But the truth is that that's probably not the case. And so sometimes people just don't have, let's just talk about love. Okay. Sometimes people don't have the love that you need. Okay. Or you fill in the blank. And you feel like, well, they should have done the work to get it. And it really isn't their fault that they don't have it. And they may not have the opportunity to figure it out. Just like I spent a long time in my life escaping by different means until I could learn some skills and allow some people in my life and let God close enough to heal me of some things. And some people could easily say, hey, you should have got around to that stuff sooner. And, but I did the best I could with the information and what I had in front of me at the time. And we don't get to, we don't just, Doug makes a statement and it's profound. It sounds simple, but it's pretty profound. It says you got to play the cards that you have before you get any new ones. Got to play the cards you're dealt, and you got to play those cards before you get any new ones. And sometimes in life, it feels like all the cards you have in your hand are bad and worse. But in life, you don't get a new hand. You don't get to redeal. And sometimes you got to play a bad or a worse card to get any new cards. And that's true for us. It's true for our families. It's true for everybody that we know. And so we're all really surviving. We're all trying to heal from the things that have happened to us, and we're all trying to live our life and not and try to be present more than we're trying to escape, hopefully. And so, if you're out there tonight, I guess I need to wrap this up. If you're out there tonight and you're angry, you're upset, you're hurt because your family wasn't able or couldn't or wouldn't give you what you needed. Maybe they just didn't have it to give. And it's easy to say they should have figured it out. And I get it. But that just isn't reality sometimes. And so, but that doesn't mean that you can't heal and that you can't get to wherever you want to be and that you can't have everything that you want. The only person that determines that is you. No one else determines that. And so that's all I have. Without further ado, please welcome Doug.
Well, thank you, Zach, and thank you for your words. But before I talk, I want to make the opening statement that I was supposed to make, and then I want to ask everybody if they have any other comments about what's been covered so far, because tonight's topic was about family influence, and that's how our families or our ancestors has affected us. And then of course John read the scriptures there out of Nehemiah, how they found out, they found the scriptures as they were rebuilding the walls, and they realized that they had messed up. And one of the things they did was they realized that they were in the spot they were in because of some of the influences of their ancestors, because they made bad choices. And we all fall in that same boat, just like Zach said. And so, but we are a composite of everything that's happened to us before we got here and after we got here. What our parents did, our grandparents did, all the other generations, those 50 generations before, all the history, all that affects us. But we have to make a choice if we're going to be controlled by all of that, or if we're going to go ahead and take responsibility for our life and do what we can with what we have. Just about like what Zach said, he was referring it to those other folks in his life, which I totally relate with, because those that were in our life, even though their best wasn't very good, they did the best that they could under their situation. Yes, maybe they should have been different, but the fact of it was they weren't different. And so we accept that we have to grieve over those influences. We may have to process through them. I remember come to the place that I had to grieve over what I didn't get, just like Zach said, and like many of you out there, you that are here on the Zoom, you that are watching the video, had to grieve what we didn't get and find ways to get some of that in our life. And I believe God does bring people into our life to do that if we're willing to accept it. Sometimes we don't. We'll even resist it. Okay, but God, He's loving and kind and persistent to try to give us that we want and need, and that actually we have prayed for, either consciously or unconsciously. And so the real story is we have to take responsibility because it's our life. And I like what Dr. Carolyn Leaf says. She's a Christian neuroscientist, studies the brain, quantum physics. She says the way to break those bonds of the past with our ancestors, those curses, some people use that terminology, the entanglement, which is a quantum physics terminology. The way you break that is by, Zach didn't use these words, but basically he was referring to it, and that is forgiveness, acceptance. That's healing for us, because we have to take care of ourselves. And when we are better and more healed, that affects everybody around us, particularly those closest to us, and who comes in contact with us. So anyway, so that's some of what we're talking about here tonight. And I just wanted to, that was kind of my opening statement. I was going to share that in the beginning, but anyway, anybody have any comments? Lisa, Tommy, Kate, Zach, or John? Did somebody raise their hand? Okay, Tommy.
I did.
I'm chasing you around.
I'm currently going through something like this. Ooh, there I am. I'm going through something like this. I wasn't up to date on what we were talking about tonight, and I'm kind of right here at this in my life right now with my family, and having to realize where I stand with them and where they stand with me. And sometimes I'm learning it's just better to let go, and it's hard, and it's working on every part of who I am, and I'm really having to watch myself. So I really needed this tonight. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks, Tommy. Anyone else? Any comment from anybody else? It looked like Lisa's thing moved, but okay. Well, my topic that, if there's no one else who wants to share anything, my topic tonight, and I know we're running way late, and I know Zach's going to tell me, don't worry about it, but but I always want to try to do that. And by the way, hey, tomorrow's Easter Sunday, and it's boy, if there's ever a time in life we need the resurrection power to come into our lives and all the chaos and trauma and stuff, we need that. We need that now. But my topic that I want to, a subject that I found was 5 psychological reasons for blaming others, plus how to stop it. Okay. 5 ways, 5 psychological reasons for blaming, and I have 4 points of or steps to help you to work on stopping it, which is it's really the more I dug into this, the more I really enjoyed it. But I got a question for all of you. Are you up to a question? Okay, and that is, why do we blame? Why do we blame?
Because it's easier not to take responsibility and hand it to someone else.
Say it again. You're a little bit muffled.
I said it's easier to not take the responsibility and hand it to somebody else.
All right.
Then we have no fault. It wasn't me. I mean, my sister did it, or my brother. It was my brother or my dad, or, their fault.
Yeah. Yes. Anybody else?
And then I
Comments?
That-
feel better about yourself because it was them.
I think Lisa was starting to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think ultimately it comes down to fear. The fear of what it means if we have to own it ourselves. What does that say about me? And so it's easy, like you said, it's easier to point blame at somebody else than it is to look in the mirror and accept responsibility for our own actions. So I think it's just fear of failure, fear of disappointment, fear of, making a mistake, and fear sometimes of just fear of honesty and ownership. So
Fear, to add on to what you said, fear of the unknown,
absolutely.
Sometimes we've lived with shifting blame and blaming others and hiding out, that we're more familiar with that than what's it going to be like if I take responsibility. Anybody else, any comments?
I just have to be honorary, talking about blame and you teaching this lesson is, I do have to say that if we all get healthier, and it's all your fault, Doug. So sorry, I had to do it. It's been one of those nights. I'm like, we got to have some fun. We got to have some laughter. Recovery does not have to be drab. It can sometimes be fun and full of laughter. If you don't believe me, when we get to go back to live, you guys come in and enjoy listening to us when we're sitting at the bad kids table and lipping from the side seat. So it's a little easier to lip on the Zoom than it is in the meeting, but sometimes we just got to have fun.
Yeah, and well, thank you for blaming me, but I actually, I will take my part of the responsibility. But the fact of it is, if you get better, it's because you decided to, and so I think that's the truth of the matter. And but we all play a part, possibly. Yeah.
Maybe.
Either in a good way or a bad way, right?
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and see. I'm going to try to push through this. I don't know how long it's going to take. I'm going to try to cover maybe kind of the main points anyway. And the main point they started off with the 5 psychological reasons for blaming others is life is not perfect. And so and I thought this was a very good point. They said that that it's a human default mechanism to try to find a reason, a cause of why that this happened. So it's looking for a cause, and so that we're able to say we know why, okay, and we don't want to be why, so we find somebody else to or something else to blame, because actually we're trying to stay under the radar. We want to be out of the focus. If we can direct the attention to something else, then I can maybe go unnoticed, and you won't know how bad I am. See, because a lot of us, even though we have multiple different variations of behaviors, some being very narcissistic and outgoing, on others being very reserved and very shy. And both of those come from the same place of insecurity and fear in ourselves. And whether you don't have to believe that, but I that's what I see, and that's what I've learned, and that's the information that I've pulled together. But but we all make mistakes. that's such a big truth. Life is not perfect. We all make mistakes. We all mess up, and that we have to recognize that we all are flawed human beings, and and uh, uh, and we think that if you know that I did something wrong, or I messed up, or I made a mistake, that you'll think less of me. And every time that I have asked someone this question, uh, and let me just go ahead and ask the question: if you see who do you have greater respect for? Someone that denies and will not take responsibility for a mistake, or the person that makes a mistake and then takes responsibility for it? Who do you appreciate more? Maybe you don't like the mistake, but who do you appreciate more, and maybe even like, or even maybe trust more? The person that denies the mistake and blames others, or goes ahead and takes responsibility for what they've done? Uh, every time I've asked that question to individuals, they've always said, well, the person that takes responsibility. Yeah, that gives you, that's appealing, because they're being honest, they're being truthful. You already knew they made the mistake, and now they're being honest, and so you value them more and you appreciate them more because they've done that. Well, if you do that for others and you think that way about others, then what do you think the likelihood that other people will do that for you? That, in fact, they'll even value you more if you recognize you made a mistake and you take responsibility for it. I've kind of deviated off my notes already, but that's so important. I'm gonna go ahead and skip on down and go to the 5 reasons we blame others for our mistakes. The first one here is to explain why something happened. I kind of already touched on that, because it's human to try to identify the cause, and and that if we can find out why this happened, then we feel more in control. Some people say, well, if I can find out what happened, then I won't do it again. And that may be true. It depends on what you do with the information after you do it. But oftentimes, what we do is we want to find a cause, and then we want to use that as our narrative, for our own life story, and so that we can make sure that we stay away from those things sometimes. And it's kind of a mental process. And what we prefer to do is just nobody know that we made any mistakes. But the fact of it is, I didn't think about this till just now. I remember, the pastor of Crystal Cathedral many years ago. It'll come to me, but he used to he preached a sermon about if you want to get ahead, you need to wear a red shirt. And what he was talking about, he worked he had a lot of construction workers in his church, and people he worked with at this particular time. And he told people that, of course, most of the blue collar workers were basically in blue type dress. And he said, if you want to be noticed, if you want to excel in your job, wear a red shirt. Said because the reason why is because you know that people can identify you, and so you're going to you're doing your job. You're going to be doing what you're supposed to, when you're supposed to, how you're supposed to, and people can be on the ground and look at the skyscraper that you're building on the steel, and they can see you up there. And he recommends that you get there early and you stay late, and you will be seen. And that's just the reverse of blaming people. we're wanting to take responsibility, and this shirt deal, red shirt deal, was a mechanism to help those individuals, or to help us to be consciously aware that we're being seen. And so we want to put our best foot forward, which we should do anyway, right? But sometimes we don't. Sometimes we like to blend into the crowd and disappear. And so, but disappearing is not going to get you probably what you want. Would you agree with that? Number two, why one of the reasons why we blame others for our mistakes is to attack someone. Number two, to attack someone. Oftentimes we want to shift blame to other people. It's a subtle way of attacking them. I thought that was an interesting terminology. Shifting blame is a subtle way of attacking them. Okay, maybe consciously or unconsciously. If you're holding a grudge, sometimes that will consciously or unconsciously motivate you to shift blame to them, or point out their faults. Like if we point out their faults, then people are looking at them. We're shifting focus, remember, and people don't see my mistakes or faults. But that's not necessarily true, but that's what we tell ourselves. So number two is it's to attack. I slipped in a word here about revenge. Sometimes the reason why we shift blame to others is because we want to get some sort of revenge. I was talking with a fellow recently. He was talking about how people he was working with, he believed was trying to set him up and do him wrong, and watching him and trying to find him not doing what he's supposed to do. He's very conscientious, always trying to do his very best, but he felt very paranoid about what was going on, and we're trying to process through that. But we're still on number two. One of the aspects of shifting this blame, it's a technique, it's a strategy. The bottom line is to hurt others. Okay, yeah, it's maybe to alleviate pain from yourself, you think, but really it's to hurt others. Have you ever thought about it that way before? Think on that. Number three, it's a great defense mechanism. We need to we try to focus, and I've already touched this a little bit, but it's an attempt to focus other people's attention elsewhere. Okay, a defense mechanism. Shift the blame in the direction of somebody else to avoid other people recognizing that you're not perfect. Okay, all right, we need to recognize we're not perfect. We make mistakes. We're going to make mistakes. And also to this defense mechanism also deflects or reflects a behavior that we're not interested in really dealing with our own deep stuff. Okay, we keep pushing it other places instead of going ahead and focusing on it and dealing with it ourselves. And if we do that, we stay in a ongoing fragile ego state. What do you think about that? Because we haven't developed any emotional endurance. We haven't grown up, okay? We don't go ahead and deal with our stuff. That was number three. Number four, it's easier that way. This is maybe along the lines of what Tommy was talking about earlier, and that is that why should we bother doing all of the tricky self-analysis, and why should we take steps to work on ourselves? It's easier just to blame others. Okay, take the easy way out, right? Always take option B, right? Not option A. Let's do let's do something other than that. And so what we do is that we find fault with somebody else, or we lie about somebody else, or we lie about ourselves. And oftentimes we think, well, nobody will ever find out. Now, nobody here has ever said this, but I'm in the middle of a Zoom meeting, and we don't have anything out here. Yeah, sure. All righty. And there's a cup down here, sitting right here by the microwave. Okay, buddy. Is that Luke? Yes. Water's next place. Right there. And Mark, when you go out, would you make sure that door locks behind you, please? If you want to sit down here, you're welcome to, but I've got to get back to what I'm doing here. All right. All right. It's easier to that way to find blame in other people, I think is where I was at. And basically, it's easier. We think it's easier to lie. But see, buddy, and we feel that we don't think that the consequences of our lying will ever catch up with us. How's that worked out for you? All right. And so what we need to do is recognize that it's in our best interest to go ahead and accept and go ahead and not accept our responsibility and not shift blame. Okay, the last one. It removes our inhibitions. And what they're talking about here is that what it does is it gives us the excuse to not go ahead and take responsibility, and because we're not taking it, then we're able, somehow it affects us to where we're able to harm others in another way by shifting the blame, lying to them, distorting, not being real, and so that we build a pattern that is against what we know is right, our own moral code, because we all have it. We've all been given that moral code, and that some of us have tried to block it out or cover it up or sear it. And so what we need, we need to recognize that we are the one or ones that really suffer. All right, 4 ways to how to avoid shifting blame. Okay, does anybody have any comments on the 5 that we've already talked about? Anyone? I heard a noise.
Sorry.
Do you have a comment, Tommy?
No, I had to switch. I have to go check on something. I had to switch my phone.
Okay, all right. Okay, so no comments. We'll go right through the 4 ways to avoid, how to avoid shifting blame. And I think this first step is really a big one. I've used that, and we even used it in the beginning here, and they say, take a deep breath. Oftentimes when I get into situations, challenging situations, I pause. And that's what a deep breath is. It's a pause where you breathe. And oxygen is good. It gives you a chance to think and to recognize what's going on so that you can catch the situation here. And this is where I bring in our method that we have talked about many, many times, and that's catch it, check it, and change it. And so, and it's hard to change something if you haven't looked at it, and you can't look at it until you have checked it or caught it. And so we need to catch what's going on here in this dynamic, and that way there is a gap between the stimulants and response, and in that gap you get to choose. Okay. Many have talked about that one, and so we have that opportunity to make that choice. And if you give yourself a chance, and the chance here I'm talking about, first technique is to take a deep breath and pause. And I see myself slowing myself down on the inside. That's kind of how I see it. And that helps me to be staying engaged and realize that I need to take responsibility for this. And many years ago, I developed it, and some of you have heard this, at least the ones on the Zoom, is I may have not done that, but I'm responsible. I'm responsible for what happened there. Even though I didn't do it, I take responsibility for that. And that helped me. I practiced that to help me to take responsibility for things that may be out of my control. But the fact of it is, to help things, to improve things, to make things better, I take responsibility. And you say, well, that's not fair, taking responsibility for things not in your control. But the fact of it is, to some degree, if it's within my zone, I have a certain amount of responsibility. Now that may sound really strange to you, but I see it, I understand it, and I've made the choice to take responsibility for the things around me, to whatever degree, not try to control everything, okay, not try to be responsible for everything, to the degree that that I need to take responsibility for, instead of just avoiding it, denying it, pretend that it didn't happen. I remember talking to a guy on one of the jobs that I was on many years ago, and because I was always interested in learning, and this man, which he was kind of one of the supervisors, he made this statement. He says, I don't want to know everything. I don't want to learn how to do all of that. Because if I learn that, then I'll have to do it. Well, that's the reason why I wanted to learn it, because I felt like I'd be better off by knowing than not knowing. But that's not how he looked at things at that time. So anyway, number 2, reframe it. Reframe it as an opportunity to learn. I'm looking at my time. And so basically, I have said this many times, and that is that we need to look at every situation as a learning opportunity, or better yet, a golden opportunity. That means it's really important to learn. And so that we learn what's going on, even though it's a problem, instead of shifting blame to somebody else, that we look at it as a time to learn, even if we've made a mistake or a bad choice, that we reframe it and say, we're going to learn from this. Okay. Now, I'm not saying beat yourself up over it. Okay. Beating yourself up doesn't make things better. Generally, it usually makes things worse. But that's a whole different deal there. So, number 3, if you shift the blame, apologize. All right. Remember, we're talking about 4 ways to avoid shifting blame. Here, this one here, number 3, apologize. in our steps, we talk about making amends. Making amends is a form of apologizing. But the big thing about making the amends is that it's a mindset more than a behavior, okay? Even though because if we don't get the mindset, the behavior is not really effective. It's fake. I know that may sound harsh. So what we have to do is we have to mean it when we apologize. Okay? And so when we do that, when we recognize it, then and you know, we're going to make mistakes even after we say I don't want to do it anymore. So what we have to do is we have to keep practicing what we want to do, even though we may make them. Let's go to the next one. Fourth is keep things in perspective. And that's so important. We talk about this a lot, and that is that we need to recognize that sometimes we can mess up spectacularly. We can feel extremely guilty, and oftentimes we can make a mountain out of a molehill because we'll exaggerate. But the fact of it is, we need to recognize it, and we need to deal with it instead of sweeping it underneath the carpet. That is a pretty old term. I don't know that it's used all that much anymore. But instead of sweeping the thing, so just putting it out of sight, the mess is still there, but nobody can see it, supposedly. And then continually worrying about, here's another one, the other shoe to drop, okay? And somebody discovering or finding it, it's a whole lot easier to go ahead and deal with it right up front, clean it up now, take responsibility for it, and that way you deal with it. And most of the time, the consequences that we have fabricated in our mind are far less if we go ahead and deal with it now than if we lie about it, put it off, and then it erupts later, because it's going to erupt sometime, somehow. So that's the four things about the 5 psychological reasons for blaming others, and then plus the 4 how to stop it. And so if you use these systems, the first 5, maybe you can recognize that you may have a tendency, or you know somebody has a tendency, but you want to be careful about pointing that out to them. But because this is more about self-diagnosis, so that you recognize that in you, and then what you can do to help yourself to begin to shift yourself. And as you do that, you'll like yourself better. It will enhance your life, enhance your recovery, enhance your relationships, because lying and blame shifting destroys relationships. Because people will put up with a little bit of that, but if you continue to do it, they become less and less tolerant. Isn't that the truth? So, any comments from anybody? I see no movement, so, all right. Well, thanks for being with us tonight, everyone. John, did you have something you want to say? Okay. Thanks, everyone, for being here with us. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May his light shine upon you and give you his peace. And make healthy choices. And I'm going to turn this back over to Zach, and you can take us out. Zach.
All right. Well, thanks for being here tonight, and we appreciate you. And join us next week. And stay safe and take care of yourself. You're important to us. And